Thanks for tuning in to our seller interview series. Up today, we've got an e-commerce and dropshipping business for sale in the apparel and accessory niche. Created in March 2014, this business makes $1,960 per month in net profit. The listing number for the site is 40589. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We've got the seller with us today to go through the business, cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Thomas.
Glad to be here. Thank you for this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just to give the listeners out there a quick summary of the business, the total monthly revenue is $4,635, and that's over a 12-month average, and it has expenses of $2,675. Included with the sale is obviously the main domain, but there's two domains actually included, although only one is the main site, which drives 99% of the sales. The second site helps rank for Google. Including with that comes the social media pages with a Facebook page of over 7,000 likes, almost 8,000 likes, Instagram following of 15,000 followers, and an email marketing list of 1,000 subscribers. So that's a pretty awesome setup for a buyer looking at this business, looking to grow. You already have some assets. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the site, Thomas, can you tell me a little bit more about your background? Is this your first online business? How did you start this? Do you have a background in digital marketing?
Absolutely no background in digital marketing. I guess my background is just in business and just being ambitious and wanting to have some income producing assets. And, I went to business school. I have a professional career, which takes up most of my daylight hours. And then a couple of years ago, I kind of fell into the dropshipping world. I took a course and I got all excited, and I started a site from scratch and it just went nowhere. And I had to pay for traffic and I couldn't make it profitable. And then I started listening to Empire Flippers podcast, and I realized you could buy an existing business with cash flow, and that just excited me so much more. So I did, and that's this. And it's been great, but now my career as a commercial real estate broker has really taken off. It's taken up all my time. And so I just want to focus.
So did you buy this business from Empire Flippers then?
Yeah. I bought it through Empire Flippers.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I figured, why not just go back to Empire Flippers? You guys already know the site. You vetted it once. It'll be easy to vet it again. So there should be a higher level of comfort.
So how did you come up with the idea to start this business? I mean, buy this business rather. What was it about this listing that just sang to you?
So about this listing, what I liked was that there was the Instagram following. A business to have 15,000 followers on Instagram, that really says something. But more importantly, there's a lot of engagement. The last picture that I posted on Instagram got 551 likes and 37 comments. So that's pretty telling that you're not just paying for fake followers or paying for likes. They're all real. So I liked that. I liked that it was fairly passive. You can run it during nights and weekends, and it had some traction.
Yeah, for sure, man. So for someone looking at this business and say they're not very familiar with dropshipping or e-commerce, could you just describe very briefly how it makes money?
Sure. So we get orders for the product, and then all of the orders get routed through my vendor, and then the vendor ships directly to the customer. And so I don't have any inventory in my house, fortunately, because my wife would kill me. She wouldn't allow that. And I deal with my vendor online, emails and Skype chats. And, it's a beautiful thing because I mentioned I have a professional job. So I was sitting in a meeting back in June, and all of a sudden my phone just kept blowing up. I kept getting all these PayPal notifications, money coming in, and it was awesome. But I had no idea why. Well, it turns out the Huffington Post had listed an article, and they had linked to my page. So that was driving a lot of traffic and a lot of sales. And here I am during my day job getting notifications that all these sales are coming in. And then that night I just had to pay some invoices to my vendor, and everything got shipped to the customer, and it was all exciting.
That's awesome. Huffington Post linked that to you. That must have been a great day for you.
Yeah, it really was. So that's actually twice now. The Huffington Post has linked to my site. They did it once last year. That was Huffington Post America. And then in June, the one I'm talking about was the Huffington Post UK, I believe.
That's awesome. I mean, the product you are selling is, without giving anything away, it's extremely cool. It is something that, does attract the eyes, and good social media. It's a great social media item. in terms of like getting good engagement and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a really, really neat product. People see it and they want it. So the trick, I guess it's a trick in a lot of businesses, is to get the potential customer to see it. So
For sure, getting more eyes on the product is definitely a reasonable strategy
yes.
with your product.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you're looking to focus on your career. So why are you selling the business if it's fairly passive? Are you just looking to go out, get a lump sum of money? Do you have a plan for the sale or with the money that you'll get from the sale?
Yeah, so I got married last fall, and I'm not just a single guy anymore living off ramen noodles. So my wife wants to buy a house, and there's kids for the future. So just kind of selling my side business and focusing on my career and my family. It just kind of makes sense from because she and I have talked about it, and so we just kind of came to a decision to sell it.
That makes sense. Focusing more on other things. I mean, that is a very common reason why people sell their businesses, just so they could not be so scatterbrained, right?
Right, yeah.
So moving a little bit into the site history, what was I know that you bought this business instead of starting, so it already had kind of a trajectory going for it. But when you bought the business, what was the trajectory like? Did you increase the sales quite a bit, or was it been stable since you bought it, or how has it been?
So it's been stable, I would say. So when I bought it in 2015, it didn't have a lot of history, and that was one of the risks that I took on when I bought it. But I knew that was a risk. But now that it's been more time has passed, that risk has gone down substantially. So when I bought it last year, it had recently ranked number one for Google, and so we've kept that number one ranking, which is a pretty important part of the site. And sales have been steady. The sales do ramp up during the kind of latter half of the year, especially towards Christmas. That's the big reason why we priced it on a 12-month average, because it wouldn't be fair for someone to wait until just after the holiday rush and then price it, because that wouldn't be indicative of full year.
Right, yeah. Seasonality does come into play with a business like this. Is there anything you learned from this business that you might apply to future sites or businesses? I know you're probably not going to be building more sites from the sounds of it, but perhaps the business you are currently getting into, is there any lessons you're taking away from this?
That is a great question. Well,
thank you.
One thing that this has confirmed is just the golden rule of treating people the way that you want to be treated. I've really enjoyed working with the vendor. I really have one prominent vendor, and he's overseas. And, I really try hard to thank him and really, work with him as a partnership. I mean, he's my customer on paper, because I'm paying him money and he's selling me the products, but he ships. But he's a good guy. I make sure to thank him for his hard work, and we work together really well. And that's absolutely something that would transfer over to the new buyer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having those kind of relationships just makes everything so much easier, Now, moving into another direction, is there something that you tried with this business that just didn't work?
Well, yeah. So I did try email marketing, and there's a list. I think what this website listing says there's a list of 1,000 email subscribers, but I just checked. I think there's a couple hundred more that I just haven't added to my account. So there's about 1,200 subscribers, and I tried it, and I just wasn't that good at it. I probably didn't try as hard as I should have, but I also didn't really know if it was working because I was never able to figure out how to set up Google Analytics in a way so you could track your conversions. So I guess that's another thing I was bad at was kind of Google Analytics and figuring out where the sales are coming from.
That's definitely an area of opportunity for someone out there who understands tracking, better than you, or has more time to get into tracking to see where they can go, that they can then go split test all that stuff. So it's good.
Exactly. I mean, it's a little embarrassing to admit, but I will be the first to admit that there's people out there who are much better at stuff like that than me.
That's totally fine. We often tell people never be afraid of something you're bad at, especially on an interview like these, because there's plenty of buyers that are glad you're bad at that because that's what they're good at. So that's why they wanted to buy the site.
I know. We mentioned the Huffington Post article back in June, and I felt like an idiot because I had no idea why all this traffic was coming. I had no idea what the conversions were being driven from. The only thing I could tell was that there was more traffic, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from or why. And I think that's definitely an opportunity for potential buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving into speaking of Huffington Post and getting traffic, moving more into the traffic and earnings, it sounds like the majority of your traffic you would say would be organic and referral traffic, or are you also doing social, like paid advertising or anything like that?
The majority of the traffic is organic. Like I said, it has the number one Google ranking, which is awesome. I was thinking about the other day, I've never even explored Bing. I've never even, I don't even know what you have to do, like submit a sitemap to Bing or something. So that might be an opportunity. But I do experiment with Facebook ads just because in the past I'll put out an ad and it kind of goes viral. People share it, people comment on it and say, hey, so-and-so, you would like this. So that's kind of fun, but it's not a big expense. It's not something I'm an expert on. It's just something I do because I think it works. But again, going back to my analytics incompetence, I have no idea if it's working.
That's so funny. In my opinion, a pretty good opportunity for someone because I do think your product would do great with Facebook ads. I was just thinking about that as you said that. Well, like, oh man, I bet people are sharing the crap out of this.
They are. And, I learned a little bit and enough to be dangerous. I set up the Facebook pixel. So then I was trying to retarget people. But again, I don't know if I did it right. For all I know, I was just wasting my dollars, just adding to Zuckersberg retirement account.
Growing his 401k, man. So we're all
exactly.
So breaking down the earning type and history, is it mainly just one kind of product that you have that's selling, or is there multiple different products and multiple different types of accessories?
It'd be kind of hard to answer that without giving away too many details of the site, but it's definitely, I definitely have some top sellers. And that's good because then you know what's selling, and then you can kind of use those products to push when you try email marketing or try social marketing, etc. I mean, that's what I was trying to do, probably not very well. And the other thing that I thought of about the social was, we talked a little bit about my Instagram following, and I never was able to figure out Instagram ads, but I think those would do really well.
Oh, I'm sure. I believe Instagram ads are still pretty new too. I think they only really rolled out in the last few months, if I'm correct.
Yeah, exactly. I looked into it, and you had to resize pictures to make them like square or something. And then I went up to picture.com, and I don't know. I wasn't able to figure it out, so I dropped it.
That's another opportunity right there.
Yeah.
In terms of earnings, when you bought the site, is it earning more than what it was, or is it been pretty much stable throughout the purchase?
So on an annualized basis, it's earning what it was. So it really hasn't gone through. I wasn't able to grow it through the roof, probably because my background's not social marketing and website management. But it also didn't fall off a cliff, because it's a great business.
That's awesome. It stayed stable. I mean, that purchase alone, since you purchased the site, if you look at it as an investment, I'm sure it's reaping more dividends than almost any other investment you could have made. So,
yeah, exactly. When you annualize it, it's sure beats the stock market.
Yeah, exactly. How much content is on the site? Is there articles about the product? Are you adding content on a monthly basis, or do you kind of just let it sit with where it's at?
Oh man, that's another thing that I just have not been great at. I haven't added hardly any content. The old seller was blogging about it, but I haven't put up any blogs. Probably, I probably should have been, but I wasn't. I haven't added any products, but I think you could if you wanted to. But the products that are up there seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, so you haven't added any new products since you took the business over?
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty cool. As far as opportunities go, and it sounds like there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
If you wanted the least risky path to grow, like say you decided to keep the business and not sell it, what would be the least risky path you would follow to grow the business?
I don't know if I'd be able to give you the great answer. I mean, the only answer I give you is kind of what I'm doing, which is probably Instagram ads would definitely be up there. Continuing to explore Facebook ads, spending $5-10 a day, just figuring out what works, what doesn't, figuring out email marketing, and just doing email blasts, I think would work quite well. I always had this vision of trying to figure out how to increase the dollar sales per customer, because I had this vision of somehow putting up a coupon where if someone wants to buy one, that's great, but if they wanted to buy two, they'd get 25% off or something like that. So that way you increase the average order size. But I just never was able to figure out how to do that, and it was just kind of a dream I had. So I think just kind of figuring out Instagram, Facebook, email, and then just continuing to run the site, I think you do quite well.
What would you do if you were incredibly risky and just wanted to grow the business as quickly as possible?
As quickly as possible? Well, I think you probably hire a online marketing expert and just kind of outsource the Instagram and the Facebook and even Pinterest. I think this would go really well in Pinterest, but the only thing I know about Pinterest is that I can't even spell the word Pinterest. Whenever I Google it, I somehow screw it up. So yeah, hiring someone who knows what they're doing to do all that, spending a little money up front and then reaping the dividends down the road.
Pinterest,
I think you do well.
I think Pinterest would be a pretty good medium for a product like this. It's so visual. I'm assuming that's why it does probably really well on Instagram as well, like you mentioned earlier, with all the engagement you get from just posting pictures. As far as risks go, what do you think the biggest risk is for a person buying this site?
Well, so I think I can answer that because I thought about these risks back when I was buying. So I thought one of the risks was that the supply relationship would somehow not pan out the way that it had been. And now that I've been running the site for almost a year now, and I've been working with the vendor, he's just a great guy. I don't know how to say it otherwise. He works hard. He's very responsive via Skype messages and texts, or not text, messages and emails. And he seems honest, and I'm straight with him. He's straight with me. So that is a risk, but I can tell you that it's a low risk having been down that road. Another risk, obviously, is that your Google ranking would drop, and especially now with the Huffington Post UK article linking in, it seems like a low risk because there's lots of inbound links. I've never paid for links or those payback links. Never paid for that. And the site has just continued to rank quite well, except for 1 week period back in April. All of a sudden, I realized I had a lull in traffic, and there was an issue with my Google ranking, and it was because I'm an idiot and I hadn't submitted a sitemap to Google. But once I did that, I think there was a couple other things I had to do in my webmaster tools. Then I showed back up and I had the number one ranking again.
Good, man. Yeah, the organic traffic is just awesome, and obviously that's always a risk when you're basing your business off of SEO. But again, it's kind of the same risk with any traffic source that you rely on. It sounds like you also have fairly good social coming with Instagram engagement, so that's good.
Exactly.
As far as work required, can you describe the amount and type of work you're actually doing to maintain the site?
Sure. So day to day, I mean, it can. I guess there's probably a minimum level of input that you have to put into the day. That just includes answering customer emails. Normally it's about shipping and paying the supplier invoices and kind of managing orders. And I usually do that during my nights and weekends, last thing I do before I go to bed. And it's just going to PayPal. Probably takes me, 15 minutes, I think ideally you would post to Facebook, you would post to Instagram once a week. So maybe that takes 20 minutes. And then every once in a while, there's some bigger ticket items, like maybe you have to update your website or submit a sitemap to Google, and you got to figure that out. But to someone like me who doesn't have a lot of experience, that probably took me longer than someone who does have experience.
Right. And speaking of experience, what skills or requirements would you suggest for someone to have who's looking at buying the site, but they might not be familiar with the niche?
So I was worried about that too when I bought the site, because I wasn't familiar with the WordPress platform. But since then, I've just kind of taught myself the skills as needed. And so I think the big picture is that you really just need an attitude of, I'll figure it out, there is a way. And you really only need that attitude when something goes wrong, or when, like there's some sort of bug and you gotta fix it. That's only happened once or twice. And I just a couple of Google searches later and I had figured it out. Now that's just kind of the technical stuff of maintaining the website. And then I've kind of taught myself email marketing, social marketing, Instagram, Facebook ads. I'm by no means an expert. I'm sure there's a zillion other people out there with more experience and knowledge about those. And that's definitely an opportunity for someone to come in and really shine.
Yeah, for sure. Love to track things. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity there as well, tracking more where the traffic is coming from, maybe cart abandonment kind of things they could add on there too. So there's a lot of opportunity in terms of those for people looking at purchasing the site. In terms of additional information, kind of wrapping it up here, would you be willing to commit to a non-compete? Something that says, "Hey, look, I'm not just going to start another exact site like a week after you buy this site from me."
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When I bought the site last year, the seller also signed a non-compete. So I understand why that's important because I also wanted that. So this is the only website that I own. It's the only only website in this niche, obviously, that I own. And I would sign that non-compete. My plan isn't to start a new site, so I can absolutely do that.
Awesome. And how much support would you be willing to offer buyers?
As much as needed. When I bought the site, the seller was great in giving me phone support. We actually met in person. Just coincidentally, he happened
Cool.
to be flying out to where I live in the States. He was visiting friends, so we met at a Starbucks for a day or two, and that was great. And if the buyer wanted to meet in person, maybe we could do that. But at the very least, I can give phone support and Skype and FaceTime, and then as much email and phone support in the first stage as needed, and then just ongoing email support as long as needed.
Awesome.
I just want to treat people the way I would like to be treated, and I've always been treated well, so I'd like to give back.
That's great. That's a great rule of thumb. In terms of, obviously the best scenario here is someone comes in and buys this for full listing price. It's best for you, best for Empire Flippers. But would you be open at all to an earnout? Like say someone that came with 70% upfront, 30% on closing, or some other kind of earnout deal. Is that something you would at all be open to?
Good question. I don't think I would be interested in that. It seems like it'd be a much cleaner transaction if everything was paid up in front. If you have an earn out, it just brings so many possibilities, and potentials of things not working out the way that the buyer or the seller wanted. And I'll happily provide as much information right now so the seller can do as much due diligence so they can get comfortable with the transaction, and then we can move forward and I'll give as much support as needed.
Excellent. Before I ask my final question here, just for the listeners out there watching this video, I want to give a quick summary of this site. It was built in March 2014 with a monthly revenue of $4,635 over a 12-month average. The expenses are sitting right at around $2,675 for a total net profit of $1,960. Now, with the sale includes 2 domains, although only one is the main site. It's driving 99% of the sales. Also included is all the social media pages, Facebook page with 7,800 likes, an Instagram page with 15,000 followers and people that love to like and share it, email marketing list with 1,000 subscribers, and in addition, there will be contact lists, previous order lists, and some knowledge transfer going on for whoever does end up purchasing this business. So, Thomas, my final question for you is, within 30 seconds or less, give me your best pitch on why someone should purchase this business.
So I really do think this site would be great for someone who wants to just learn about e-commerce, and because that's the path that I went down. I wanted to learn, so I bought the site, and I have learned. But I also think it'd be great for someone who really knows what they're doing and grow rapidly, as opposed to just sitting back and collecting the cash flow. There's so much opportunity here. I've been conservative with my numbers. Example, the email list, it's at least 1,000 subscribers. I just checked it. There's like 180 people that have signed up. I just haven't copy them into my list. So,
nice.
so it's a great site. There's opportunity. I'm probably underusing it right now, and I'm happy to answer any more questions as come up.
Excellent. Well, for everyone that's out there, if you're watching this on YouTube or some other video channels like Daily Motion or something along those lines, and you want more information about this business listing, the link will be below the video that will take you to our marketplace listing. If you're watching this on the actual listing page and you want more information, you can become a depositor today. All you have to do is click the button, make a deposit, and we'll send more information on over to you. So, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Glad to talk.